Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to analyze wildlife activity by time of day. So I've got my eMammal data here, which I downloaded from the website. You may also get it from your eMammal project coordinator. Each row here is a sequence in a deployment. The first column is the deployment name. We've got the dates of the camera went out and came back in, the latitude and longitude of that deployment. And then we've got begin and end date time of each sequence, or the sequence in that row. The common name and scientific name of the species that was detected in that sequence, and the group size. We've also got a habitat in this column, and a number of other columns that are not relevant to this particular analysis, but will be in your data set. For this analysis, we're interested in the time of day that each detection took place, and we're going to code that by the hour of the day. To do that, we're going to insert a new column between F and G. So you can right-click on G and click Insert. It's going to take it a minute because it's a large data set. There we go. We're going to call this hour. Then we're going to use the formula equals hour, open parentheses, open parentheses, begin date time, close parentheses, and enter. Okay, it doesn't really look like an hour to us, but we'll get there. This is what we want. Now, if we come to the bottom right corner, we see the black cross. We can double click there and it's going to copy that entire formula down. Click on the G to highlight the entire column and copy by hitting either Command C or Control C, depending on whether you're using a Mac or a PC. We'll give it a second to get itself together. Then click on that first cell, right-click, paste special, and we're going to choose values. So this is just getting rid of that formula, so we can work with just the values. Now, while the column's still selected, right-click again, go to Format Cells, give it a second, there we go. We want this to be a number with 0 decimal places, and hit OK. So now we have the hour of the day in military time that each sequence was taken. And now we can use a pivot table to figure out how many detections of each species, or what proportion of a species detections were taken at each hour of the day. So we'll select the entire data sheet by going to the upper left corner. And then we'll go to Data. We're going to Data and Pivot Table. If you're on a PC, this will be under the Insert menu. We've already selected all our data, so we can click OK. It's going to take it a minute, and then it's going to open up a pivot table here. There it is. So we've got a blank pivot table, and then we've got our pivot table builder over here. So we want our first column to be the hour of the day. So we'll drag hour down to row labels. Okay, there we have our first column, the hours of the day. We want over the top, that first row, to be the species name. So we'll drag the common name over. And then we want the values in this table to be the sum of the count. So this is the number of sequences plus the total group size in each of those sequences. So we'll take count down to values. Then we're going to click on it. Click on the I. Drag it up and choose sum of the count and OK. It's going to change the numbers a little bit. And then we have our pivot table that we're now going to copy rows 4 to 28 and paste into a new sheet by right-clicking, paste special, values, again, to get it out of the pivot table, away from the formulas, so that we can work with the numbers. I like to delete the blank and the grand total columns. And then I like to select everything and expand so I can see all the titles clearly. Okay. I also like to replace all the blanks with zeros. So I select where all the numbers are, and I go to Edit, Replace, Find What Blanks, Replace with What Zeros, and Replace All. Okay. So you can see it's filled in all those blanks with zeros. All right, so now we have the total number of detections of each species at each hour of the day. But in order to make this comparable between species, we actually want to know what proportion of total detections of each species were taken at each hour of the day. So to do that is going to take some more tables and sneaky formulas. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out what is the total number of detections for each species over all hours of the day. So we've got sum here. We're going to use the auto sum function, which is not, there it is, up there, not a Mac person. Okay, so we use the auto sum function, and then we're going to copy that, and we can just, holding down shift and using the arrow key, go across the entire bottom of this data sheet, and control V or command V, we can paste that in. So now we know total number of detections for each species for this entire data sheet. I'm going to copy this whole table and I'm going to paste it twice. One right below the other. Then I'm going to make this third table down a table entirely of the sum. I'm going to have to paste that special so that I'm not dealing with a formula anymore. Okay, I can delete this last sum row. So I've got a table that is entirely the sum row repeated over and over. And that just makes it easier to do this formula that I'm about to do. With the top table, I'm going to turn it into a formula. So I'll take American beaver, cell B2, equals the corresponding cell in the table below it, which is the count, 0 in this case, divided by, using the backslash, the total number of beavers I detected over the project, which is the corresponding cell in the table below, which is now a table of the totals. And then I hit enter. So now I've got a formula in that first cell. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to hold down shift and select all the values in the rest of this top table and paste, control V or command V. So now all the values in this top table have changed to those proportions. It's all the count divided by the total number over all time periods of the day. So this is what we want. I'm going to copy the entire table in a second once the computer decides it wants to do that. Copy the whole thing. Then I'm going to paste it special over itself. So again, I'm dealing with values. There we go. I can now delete these. Don't need them anymore. We've got what we wanted. And now we can create graphs that compare the activity patterns, which is what this is, of different species. So let's take, for example, gray fox and raccoon. Highlight those columns. We can come to charts, line, little line graph here. And then we do need to fix the x-axis. So you'll right-click this graph, go to select data, and then X category labels, you'll click this little box with the red arrow and drag down the time, the hour labels. Click the box again and say OK. So we've just fixed our x-axis, so we have now military time. Here's midnight, here's 11 p.m. We've got gray fox in blue and raccoon in red, and we can see that they have very similar activity patterns, and possibly there is some sort of, whether it be avoidance or just preference for raccoons being a little bit later in the evening and gray foxes maybe a little bit earlier in the evening. So you can go ahead and do this with any species, any two, any three, as many as you want, and compare those activity patterns.